Chosen One, why do you wake up at 3 a.m. feeling like you're drowning in your own bedroom? Why does your chest feel heavy with a burden you can't name, can't explain, can't shake off no matter how many pills you take or prayers you whisper? Why, after 70, 80, maybe 90 years on this earth, do you still feel like you're carrying invisible bricks in a backpack nobody else sees? Listen to me carefully, beloved. What if I told you that weight crushing your spirit isn't depression, it's divine preparation? What if that exhaustion you've been medicating isn't your body giving up, it's your soul getting ready for the most important assignment of your entire life? You thought you were broken. Heaven knows you're being built. I'm talking to the grandmother who sits alone after everyone's gone home, staring at empty chairs around a kitchen table that once held laughter. I'm speaking to the grandfather who worked 40 years at the same job, only to retire into irrelevance, wondering if anyone would notice if you just disappeared. You've been carrying something, haven't you? Something heavier than arthritis, deeper than loneliness, more crushing than the fear of becoming a burden to your own children. It's the weight of feeling forgotten by the very God you've served faithfully for decades. But what if, just what if, every sleepless night was actually a prayer vigil? Every tear you've cried in secret was liquid gold being refined in heaven's furnace. Every moment you felt invisible was God hiding you, protecting you, preparing you for Friday. Yes, Friday. This Friday. The day heaven has been orchestrating since before you took your first breath. Before I go deeper into this sacred mystery, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith. But here's the shocking truth they don't want you to know. You weren't meant to carry this weight forever. You've been like Atlas, holding up a world that was never your responsibility. That invisible burden pressing down on your shoulders, it's about to become the very thing that launches you into your greatest chapter. The enemy convinced you that your aching bones meant you were dying, but God is whispering tonight, child, you're not dying, you're about to be born again into purpose. So powerful it will make your past pain look like prenatal preparation. If you've ever whispered in the darkness, Lord, why me? Write it now in the comments. Let heaven see your honesty, because what I'm about to reveal will transform that question from a cry of desperation into a declaration of destiny. The wait ends Friday, but the warfare? That's just beginning. Why has your soul been restless this entire week? Why do you keep waking up with that strange knowing that electricity in the air, like something monumental, is about to break open? Why does Friday feel different before it even arrives? Because, Chosen One, heaven doesn't operate on human calendars. Heaven moves in divine appointments, sacred intersections where eternity crashes into time. And this Friday, this very Friday, has been circled in blood-red ink on God's calendar since before the foundations of the world were laid. You think I'm being dramatic? Listen to what Scripture declares in Ecclesiastes 3:1. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. Not some purposes, every purpose, including yours, including the breakthrough that's been delayed, the healing that's been postponed, the vindication that's been withheld. But why Friday? Why not Monday's fresh start or Sunday's holy rest? Because God moves in patterns, beloved, divine rhythms that echo through eternity. Think about this. Good Friday looked like the ultimate defeat. Jesus hanging on a cross, blood streaming down his face, disciples scattered in terror, hope buried in a borrowed tomb. The enemy celebrated. Hell threw a victory party. But Sunday morning shattered every celebration when the stone rolled away and death itself died. That pattern is about to repeat in your life. Your Friday has been disguised as defeat for too long. The diagnosis that shook your faith, the retirement that left you feeling useless, The children who stopped calling, the spouse who went home to glory, leaving you alone in a house full of memories, the financial struggles that make you count pennies at the grocery store, the loneliness that sits in your chest like a stone. Hell thought it was destroying you, but heaven was positioning you. Isaiah 60:1 thunders across the centuries. Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. Your light hasn't dimmed, dear one. It's been hidden under the bushel of disappointment, covered by the blanket of despair. But this Friday, the covering comes off. You want to know why your pain has been so precise? Why every attack hit exactly where it would hurt most? Because the enemy knew what heaven was preparing. He saw the crown being forged in the furnace of your suffering. He witnessed the scepter being shaped in the anvil of your endurance. So he tried to break you before you could wear it. But you're still here, still breathing, still believing, even with trembling hands. That's not accident, that's appointment. You've been marked for this Friday since before you drew your first breath. Every tear you've cried in secret has been collected in heaven's bottles. Every prayer you've whispered through gritted teeth has been recorded in eternal archives. Every moment you chose faith over fear has been building toward this divine crescendo. The delay wasn't denial, beloved. The delay was preparation. Like a master chef who knows exactly when the roast is ready, heaven has been monitoring your spiritual temperature, and the timer just went off. But here's what will shock you to your core this Friday. Isn't just about what God will do for you. It's about what He's going to do through you. You think you're too old. Moses was 80 when he split the Red Sea. You think you're too broken. David wrote his greatest psalms in caves while running for his life. You think you're too forgotten. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized the Messiah and became the first evangelist in the New Testament. Your age isn't your expiration date. It's your activation code. Friday carries what the Greeks called Chyros Time, not Chronos, the ticking of clocks, but the appointed moment when heaven's purposes collide with earth's possibilities. One Kairos moment can undo decades of delay. One divine intersection can rewrite your entire story. Right now, as these words wash over your spirit, something is shifting in the invisible realm. Angels are taking new positions. Demonic assignments are being reassigned. Doors that have been rusted shut for years are beginning to creak open. Resources that have been frozen are starting to thaw. Hearts that have been hardened toward you are beginning to soften. You feel it, don't you? That stirring in your chest, that quickening in your pulse. That's not your imagination. That's your spirit recognizing its appointed hour. But, and listen carefully, there's one small action God may require of you this Friday. One simple step of obedience that will unlock everything He's been preparing. It won't be complicated. It won't require strength you don't have. But it will require faith you've been building without knowing it. What is that action? That divine key that opens every door? That sacred password that unlocks heaven's vault? I'll reveal it to you in just a moment. But first, you need to understand something that will change how you see every struggle you've endured. The weight you've been carrying wasn't meant to crush you. It was meant to strengthen you for what you're about to lift. Dear chosen one, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now and listen to what I'm about to tell you. Because what you've been calling your worst year might actually be your most sacred preparation. You've felt it, haven't you? The crushing weight that settles on your chest when you wake up at 4 a.m., staring at another prescription bottle, wondering how many more mornings your body can take this. The stabbing fear when you open that Medicare statement, calculating whether you'll have enough to last another winter. The hollow ache when your daughter calls only to ask for money, or worse, doesn't call at all. You thought you were breaking down, but what if you were actually being broken open? Listen to me carefully. Hell fights hardest before heaven releases biggest, and the intensity of what you've been facing lately, that's not God abandoning you. That's the enemy panicking because he sees what's coming on Friday. Think about this. When was the last time you felt truly at peace? When did you last sleep through the night without worry gnawing at your soul? I'm talking to the 74-year-old man who worked construction for 47 years, only to watch his retirement savings evaporate in medical bills. I'm speaking to the 81-year-old grandmother who raised 5 children, but now sits alone while they're too busy building their own lives to visit. You've been under crushing pressure, and it's been relentless. Your blood pressure spikes every time the phone rings because it might be another bill collector. Your heart races when you see your adult son's name on caller ID because you know he only reaches out when he's in trouble. The doctor's appointments multiply like weeds, each one delivering news that makes your spirit sink a little deeper. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. Diamonds are formed under crushing pressure. Carbon becomes precious only when it's subjected to forces that would destroy ordinary matter. And you, beloved, you've been under the kind of pressure that creates something priceless. Job understood this crushing. The Bible tells us in Job 1:21, "The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." But do you know what Job discovered in his crushing? That what appeared to be loss was actually positioning. Every possession stripped away, every relationship tested, every comfort removed, it was all preparing him for a double restoration that would make his latter days greater than his former. You've been living in your Job season, the health declining faster than you expected, the bank account shrinking while the bills multiply, the loneliness that follows you even in crowded rooms, because the people who once needed you now treat you like you're invisible. But what if I told you that every sleepless night was actually preparing your spirit for supernatural alertness? What if every financial strain was teaching you to depend on a source that never runs dry? What if every relationship that disappointed you was clearing the path for divine appointments that will astound you? The pressure you've been under isn't random, it's strategic. 2 Corinthians 4:17 declares, "For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory." That word worketh in the original Greek means to actively produce, to manufacture, to create something valuable through process. Your affliction has been working, your pressure has been producing, your crushing has been creating something so magnificent that Friday will reveal what all this suffering was actually building. I know you're tired. I know you've cried until there were no tears left. I know you've questioned whether God even remembers your address. But listen to what Isaiah 43:2 promises. "When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee." Notice it doesn't say if you pass through waters, it says when. The pressure was always part of the plan. The crushing was always part of the process. You weren't being punished, you were being preserved for this Friday. Every day you survived when you wanted to give up. Every morning you got out of bed when your body screamed to stay down. Every prayer you whispered when your faith felt paper thin, that was preservation in action. That was God keeping you alive, keeping you sane, keeping you believing just long enough to reach this divine appointment. The enemy thought the pressure would break you. He thought the isolation would make you bitter. He thought the financial stress would make you curse God and die. But you're still here. You're still breathing. You're still believing. And that terrifies hell because it means you're indestructible. It means you carry something so valuable that all the forces of darkness couldn't destroy it. You've been preserved through the pressure because Friday requires someone who's been tested by fire and proven unbreakable. Friday needs someone who's learned to trust God in the midnight hour, who's discovered that His presence is more real than any circumstance. Say it out loud right now, wherever you are. I was preserved for this. Don't whisper it, declare it. Let your voice carry the authority of someone who's survived hell and lived to tell about it. Because that's exactly what you are, a survivor, an overcomer, a living testament that pressure doesn't produce defeat, it produces diamonds. But here's what's going to shock you about Friday, and why every ounce of pressure you've endured was absolutely necessary preparation. Now lean in close, chosen one. What I'm about to whisper to you has been hidden in the corridors of heaven since before time began. God doesn't announce his greatest moves with trumpets and fanfare. He doesn't send press releases to CNN or post updates on social media. When the Almighty is about to shift your entire destiny, he whispers. And Friday will be full of whispers. You see, most people are waiting for God to shout. They want burning bushes, pillars of fire, voices that shake the mountains. But listen to what happened when Elijah stood on Mount Horeb in 1 Kings chapter 19. There was a great wind that tore the mountains, but the Lord was not in the wind. There was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. There was fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still, small voice. A whisper. That's how heaven speaks to its chosen ones. Not in the noise, but in the silence. Not in the chaos, but in the quiet. And on Friday, beloved, your spiritual frequency is about to be tuned by the Master's hand. Picture this. You're holding an old radio, the kind your grandmother used to have on her kitchen counter. You're slowly turning the dial, searching through static and interference, listening for that one clear signal. Most of the time, all you hear is noise. But then, suddenly, you hit the exact frequency. Crystal clear, perfect reception. That voice you've been searching for comes through with stunning clarity. That's what's happening to you on Friday. Heaven is adjusting your spiritual dial. But here's what most people don't understand about divine instructions. They don't come with flashing neon signs. They don't arrive through overnight mail with tracking numbers. God's directions slip into your consciousness like morning light through bedroom curtains, gentle, gradual, but absolutely undeniable once you notice them. You need to guard your silence on Friday. I'm talking about sacred silence, not the empty quiet of loneliness, but the pregnant pause of anticipation. Turn off the television, put down the phone, step away from the noise that's been drowning out heaven's frequency for too long. The prophet Habakkuk understood this when he wrote in chapter 2, verse 1, I will stand at my watch and station myself on the ramparts. I will look to see what he will say to me. He positioned himself. He prepared himself. He protected his ability to receive. That's your assignment for Friday. Position yourself to receive. You also need to protect your peace. I know that sounds simple, but let me ask you something that might cut deep. When was the last time you felt genuine peace? Not the forced calm of medication or the temporary quiet of exhaustion, but real, bone-deep, soul-settled peace. Some of you can't even remember. You've been in survival mode so long, you've forgotten what it feels like to simply be still without anxiety gnawing at your chest. But peace isn't just a feeling, beloved. Peace is a frequency. And on Friday, God is broadcasting on that frequency. Isaiah 55 verse 11 promises us, So is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it. God's words carry weight. They accomplish purposes. And the word he's about to speak over your life on Friday will reshape your next decade. But you have to be tuned in to receive it. Now listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you about the signs. On Friday, pay attention to the numbers that seem to follow you. The same digits appearing on clocks, receipts, license plates. That's not coincidence, that's confirmation. Notice the dreams that feel more vivid than reality. The phone calls that come at exactly the right moment. The conversations that seem orchestrated by invisible hands. These aren't random occurrences. They're divine breadcrumbs leading you toward your purpose. Moses saw a burning bush that wasn't consumed. Gideon watched fleece become wet while the ground stayed dry. Mary received a visitation from an angel. But in our modern age, God speaks through unexpected text messages, through songs on the radio that hit your soul at precisely the right moment, through elderly strangers who speak words you needed to hear. Don't dismiss the supernatural because it comes wearing ordinary clothes. But here's the part that will either make you or break you. When that whisper comes, and it will come, you'll have a choice. You can analyze it to death, rationalize it away, seek a second opinion from people who weren't chosen to hear it. Or you can trust that the God who has guided you through every valley, every storm, every season of silence, knows exactly what he's doing. One whisper from heaven can change the next 10 years of your life. One divine instruction can redirect your bloodline. One holy nudge can transform your legacy. Think about Abraham. God whispered, "Leave your country," and that whisper became the foundation of nations. Moses heard, "Take off your sandals," and that whisper freed 2 million slaves. Mary received, "Do not be afraid," and that whisper brought salvation to the world. Your whisper is coming on Friday. The question isn't whether God will speak. The question is whether you'll be positioned to hear, whether you'll guard the silence, whether you'll protect the peace, whether you'll trust the instruction even when it doesn't make logical sense. Because, beloved, Friday isn't just another day, it's your day. The day heaven has been preparing since before you took your first breath. The day your purpose and your positioning finally align. Type "I'm listening" if you're ready to hear. Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly why this Friday has been marked in heaven's calendar with your name written in gold. But first, you need to understand something that will shake you to your core about the weight you've been carrying all these years. You've been walking through the wilderness for decades, haven't you? Wandering in circles, watching the same sun rise over the same desert, asking the same question that haunts every chosen one. God, when will my Red Sea part? Well, beloved, grab hold of something solid, because what I'm about to tell you will shake the very foundation of everything you thought you knew about divine timing. Friday is not just coming to show you everything, it's coming to show you enough. Enough to prove that every tear you've cried wasn't wasted water in the desert. Enough to confirm that every prayer you whispered into the darkness was heard in the throne room of heaven. Enough to remind you that Moses was 80 years old, 80, when God said, "Now take off your sandals. You're standing on holy ground." Listen to me carefully, dear one. Friday is arriving with the sound of chains snapping. This Friday, chains snap. Financial chains that have strangled 3 generations of your family. This Friday, delays dissolve. Dreams that have been on life support for 30 years suddenly flatline into resurrection. This Friday, doors swing. Not crack open, swing wide with the force of heaven's endorsement. But here's what's going to shock you to your core. You think you're too old for this kind of breakthrough. Tell that to Abraham when God promised him nations at 99. Tell that to Sarah when she laughed at the impossible and then birthed it at 90. Tell that to Anna, the prophetess who waited 84 years to see the Messiah with her own eyes. Your age isn't your disqualification, it's your qualification certificate signed by the Almighty himself. Do you remember what happened at the Red Sea? For 40 years, the Israelites had been slaves, convinced they would die in Egypt. Then Moses, an 80-year-old man with a speech impediment, shows up with a stick and says, "Follow me." They probably thought he'd lost his mind. But Exodus 14:21 tells us something that will make your heart thunder. Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind. All that night. Not instantly, not magically. God worked through the darkness while they waited in terror. But when morning came, there was a highway through the impossible. Friday is your Red Sea moment. The key is finally turning in the lock that's been rusted shut for decades. You've been standing at the shores of impossibility for so long, you've forgotten what it feels like to believe in miracles. You've been staring at the same mountain, the same obstacle, the same closed door until you convinced yourself it was permanent. But dear chosen one, what looks permanent to you is temporary to God. This Friday, chains snap. The addiction that's haunted your bloodline for 4 generations, snap. This Friday, delays dissolve. The inheritance that's been tied up in legal battles dissolved. This Friday, doors swing. The relationship that's been dead for 15 years swinging back to life with the breath of God. But I need you to understand something that's going to cut deep into your soul. This breakthrough isn't coming because you've been good. It's not arriving because you've tithed enough or prayed hard enough or suffered long enough. This breakthrough is coming because it's Friday. Because divine timing doesn't consult your calendar, it consults heaven's clock. And heaven's clock just struck your hour. I'm looking at screen right now, and I can see you. Yes, you. The one who's been carrying that prescription bottle in your purse, wondering if tonight might be the night you take them all. The one who's been sitting in your car in the church parking lot too, ashamed to go inside because you feel like God has forgotten your name. The one who's been driving past the cemetery every week, missing your spouse so much it physically hurts to breathe. Friday sees you. Friday knows your address. Friday is coming with a divine summons that will make you remember who you are underneath all that pain. This Friday, chains snap. The chain of loneliness that's been wrapped around your heart since your children stopped calling snap. This Friday, delays dissolve. The healing you've been believing for since 1987, dissolving into manifestation. This Friday, doors swing. The door to purpose you thought closed when you turned 70. Swinging open with such force, it will take your breath away. But here's the part that's going to require every ounce of faith you have left. You can't just wait for Friday to happen to you. You have to happen with Friday. You have to meet divine timing with human declaration. You have to stand up on shaking legs and announce to hell and earth that your season of sitting on the sidelines is over. Because, chosen one, you were not saved from Egypt to die in the wilderness. You were not preserved through every storm, every betrayal, every loss, just to fade away quietly in a nursing home. You were refined in the fire because God needed a vessel strong enough to carry what He's about to pour through you. This Friday is your liberation day. This Friday is your Red Sea morning. This Friday is when you stop being a slave to circumstances and start being a child of the King. Say it with me right now. Don't just think it. Declare it with the authority of someone who knows their breakthrough has an expiration date. Friday belongs to me. Say it again, louder this time, until the walls of your doubt start to tremble. Friday belongs to me. Because what's coming next will require you to remember something you've forgotten in all these years of surviving. You were never meant to just survive. You were always meant to overcome. But here's what will shake you to your very foundation tonight. This Friday isn't just about you. It's about every child who carries your blood, every grandchild who bears your name, and generations yet unborn who will either inherit your breakthrough or your bondage. You think you're sitting there as a forgotten senior citizen. No. You are a general in God's army, positioned at the most critical moment in your family's spiritual timeline. The baton you've carried through decades of fire is about to be passed, and Friday determines whether it burns with blessing or dies in your grip. Look at your hands right now. Really look at them. Those weathered fingers have worked, have prayed, have wiped tears from children's faces. But do you see what heaven sees? Those hands are holding the key to your family's destiny. What you do this Friday will echo through bloodlines for the next 100 years. The Bible declares in Exodus 20:6 that God shows mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thousands, not just your children, not just your grandchildren. Thousands of generations will either rise up and call you blessed or struggle under the same generational curses you've been fighting your entire life. Why do you think your family keeps repeating the same painful patterns? Why does depression hunt your bloodline like a predator? Why does financial struggle seem to follow your surname like a shadow? Because someone in your lineage was supposed to break these chains, and that someone is you. This Friday isn't a coincidence, it's a convergence. Everything your grandmother prayed for in secret, every tear your grandfather shed over his failures, every sacrifice your parents made that went unnoticed, it's all been building toward this moment when you would finally understand. You weren't born to survive the family curse. You were born to shatter it. But here's what terrifies hell and thrills heaven: you're running out of time. Not because you're aging, but because spiritual windows don't stay open forever. There's a divine deadline approaching, and your family's freedom depends on your obedience this Friday. Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver a nation. 80. Abraham was 75 when he left everything to follow God's promise. Your age isn't your disqualification, it's your authorization. You've lived long enough to know that human strength fails, that earthly security crumbles, that only God's promises stand. That wisdom makes you dangerous to the enemy and valuable to heaven. Think about Joshua 24-15. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Joshua didn't just make a personal declaration. He spoke for his entire household, his entire lineage. One man's decision changed his family tree forever. Your decision this Friday will determine whether your great-great-grandchildren thank God for you or struggle to overcome what you left undone. Will they inherit your faith or your fears? Will they walk in your breakthrough or remain trapped in your brokenness? I'm talking to the grandmother whose granddaughter is cutting herself in secret. I'm speaking to the grandfather watching his grandson destroy his life with addiction. You've been praying, you've been crying, you've been feeling helpless. But what if I told you that their deliverance is connected to your assignment this Friday? The generational strongholds that have been choking your family's potential, the poverty mindset, the spirit of rejection, the addiction cycles, the mental health battles, they're not genetic, they're spiritual. And spiritual problems require spiritual solutions from someone who has the authority to break them. That someone is you, but you have to understand the weight of this moment. This isn't just about personal breakthrough anymore. This is about becoming the ancestor your descendants will study, the one who changed everything, the generation where the blessing began. Deuteronomy 7-9 promises that God keeps covenant and mercy with them that love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. 1,000 generations. That's 25,000 years of blessing flowing from one person's obedience. Your Friday decision is about to become their foundation. Your breakthrough is about to become their inheritance. Your victory is about to become their starting line. Some of you are thinking, but I've already made so many mistakes. My children barely speak to me. My grandchildren don't know my name. Stop right there. God doesn't need your perfection. He needs your availability. The same God who turned murderer Moses into a deliverer, who transformed adulterer David into a king, who changed persecutor Paul into an apostle, that same God is about to turn your failures into their freedom. This Friday, you're not just rising for yourself. You're rising for every child in your bloodline who will inherit courage instead of fear. You're standing for every future great-grandchild who will know they come from overcomers, not victims. You're breaking chains for babies who haven't been born yet but will breathe free air because you chose faith over failure. The torch is in your hands. The relay race of your family's destiny is at its most critical moment. You've carried that baton through the fire of heartbreak, through the valley of financial struggle, through the wilderness of feeling forgotten. But Friday, this Friday, is where you pass it aflame. Drop your family's last name in the comments right now. Declare it boldly. This name will carry blessing beyond me. Let heaven record your commitment. Let your descendants read your declaration. Let hell tremble at your determination. Because what happens this Friday doesn't just change your story, it rewrites your family's entire legacy. But the question that will haunt eternity is this: will you rise to meet your moment, or will another generation inherit your hesitation? Dear chosen one, let me whisper something to you that might shake you to your very core. Friday is coming, not just any Friday, this Friday. And while the world sees it as another step toward the weekend, heaven sees it as the precipice of your greatest spiritual battle and your most profound breakthrough. You see, there's something about Friday that the enemy doesn't want you to understand. Something so powerful, so transformative, that if you truly grasped it, you'd never approach another Friday the same way again. Friday looks ordinary, but it is not. Friday feels heavy, but it is holy. Friday feels final, but it is the beginning. Think about this for a moment. What day did they crucify Jesus? Friday. What looked like the greatest defeat in human history? Friday. When did darkness cover the earth and hope seem to die? Friday. But here's the mystery that will revolutionize your understanding. That Friday wasn't the end of the story, it was the pause before the most explosive resurrection power the world had ever witnessed. You've been living your own Good Friday, haven't you? You've been hanging on your own cross of disappointment, betrayal, financial struggle, health battles. You've felt the nails of rejection pierce your hands. You've tasted the vinegar of broken promises. You've cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" But what if I told you that your Friday crucifixion is about to become your Sunday resurrection? This Friday night, and listen carefully to every word I'm about to speak. This Friday night is not just the end of another week. It's the culmination of a divine setup that's been orchestrated since before you drew your first breath. The enemy knows what's coming. That's why he's been hitting you so hard lately. That's why the attacks have intensified. That's why you felt more alone, more discouraged, more ready to give up than ever before. He's trying to take you out before Friday night arrives. But here's what hell doesn't want you to know. Friday is not only the day of breakthrough, it is the night of testing. The same way Jesus had to endure the cross before he could claim the crown, you must endure this final test before you can step into your divine assignment. The silence you've been experiencing isn't God's absence, it's his strategy. Just like Jesus hung in silence for 6 hours before declaring, "It is finished," your breakthrough is being forged in the quiet. Don't mistake silence for absence. Don't confuse delay for denial. Right now, in boardrooms you've never seen, decisions are being made about your future. In hospitals you'll never visit, healing is being prepared for your body. In bank vaults you've never entered, provision is being allocated for your need. In hearts you've never touched, love is being stirred for your loneliness. But the enemy is working overtime to convince you it's not coming. He's whispering in your ear at 3 a.m. "Give up, it's too late. You're too old, you've missed your chance." But those aren't just thoughts, beloved, those are warfare strategies designed to make you forfeit your Friday night miracle. Let me tell you what's really happening this Friday. While you're sleeping, while you're praying, while you're simply breathing, heaven is positioning pieces on a chessboard you can't see. Angels are moving obstacles you don't even know exist. The Holy Spirit is speaking to people whose names you've never heard, preparing them to become part of your miracle. But, and this is crucial, Friday night will test everything you claim to believe. Your faith won't be tested by easy victories. It will be tested by midnight darkness, by unexpected delays, by circumstances that look like defeat but are actually divine positioning. When Jesus hung on that cross, nobody believed he was winning. The disciples scattered, the crowds mocked, even the sky went dark. It looked like the enemy had triumphed. But in that moment of apparent defeat, Jesus was actually destroying the very gates of hell. What looked like his weakest hour was actually his most powerful moment. This Friday night, don't trust what you see, trust what you know. Don't judge by circumstances, judge by character, God's character. He who began a good work in you will complete it. Not might complete it, will complete it. And here's the part that should make your spirit leap. The same power that rolled away the stone from Jesus' tomb is the same power that's about to roll away every obstacle that's been blocking your destiny. The same voice that called Lazarus out of the grave is about to call your dreams back to life. The same God who turned water into wine is about to turn your tears into triumph. But you must not sleep through your Friday night. You must not become so comfortable with struggle that you miss your shift. You must not become so familiar with delay that you're unprepared for divine acceleration. Some of you are going to receive phone calls this Friday night. Others will have dreams so vivid they'll wake you up in tears. Some will feel a supernatural peace settle over situations that have tormented you for years. And others will simply know with a knowing that comes from the throne room of God that everything has changed. The paradox of Friday night is this: it will feel like an ending, but it's actually a beginning. It will feel like you're losing, but you're actually winning. It will feel like God is distant, but He's never been closer. If you're ready to stop sleeping through your breakthrough, if you're ready to stop missing your divine appointments, if you're ready to finally step into what heaven has been preparing for you, type in the comments right now, "I will not miss my Friday." Because, beloved, what's coming next will explain exactly why this Friday night has been marked in heaven's calendar with your name written in gold. You've been living by the wrong clock your entire life. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been watching the hands of Chronos tick by ordinary time, linear time, the merciless time that convinces you that you're running out. But there's another clock, beloved, a sacred timepiece that operates in the throne room of heaven itself. The Greeks called it Chyros, divine time, appointed time, the moment when eternity crashes into your earthly timeline and everything changes in an instant. Friday is when these two clocks collide. You thought you were behind schedule. You thought your best years were buried in the past. You thought God's promises had expiration dates stamped with your birth certificate. But listen to me carefully. Dear one, what if I told you that every tick of the clock you've been counting was actually counting down to this very moment? You are not late. You are not behind. You are precisely positioned for divine acceleration. Think about Joshua at Jericho. 7 days of marching around walls that seemed impossible to breach. 7 days of looking foolish to everyone watching. But on that seventh day, Joshua 6:20 tells us something extraordinary happened. When the trumpet sounded, the army shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. Notice it doesn't say the wall slowly crumbled. It collapsed instantly. What had stood for generations fell in a moment. That's Chyros time, chosen one. That's what happens when heaven decides your waiting is over. You've been marching around your own Jericho for decades. That financial struggle that's haunted your family for 3 generations. That health battle that doctors said was chronic. That loneliness that settled in your chest after the funeral and never left. You've walked around these walls so many times you could navigate them in your sleep. But Friday, this Friday, is your 7th day. Here's what's going to shock you about divine timing. It doesn't just move fast, it moves backward. What took decades will take days. What took years will take weeks. What took a lifetime will take a moment. God doesn't just accelerate your future, He redeems your past. Look at Job. 42 chapters of suffering that felt like a lifetime of torment. But Job 42:10 records the divine reset. After Job had prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. Notice the phrase, after Job had prayed. The moment his heart aligned with heaven's timing, everything shifted, not gradually, instantly. You've been praying for breakthrough. But what if God has been waiting for this exact moment to release not just your breakthrough, but your double portion? Time is about to bend in your favor, like light bending around the Sunday. Einstein proved that time is relative. It speeds up, slows down, warps according to forces greater than itself. But what Einstein discovered in physics, believers have known in the spirit for millennia. When the force of faith meets the gravity of God's grace, time itself surrenders. That dream you buried when you turned 65 because you thought you were too old, time is resurrecting it. That calling you silenced because people said your season had passed, time is amplifying it. That hope you killed because the calendar convinced you it was impossible, time is reviving it this Friday. But here's the part that will leave you breathless. You're not just getting back lost time, you're inheriting stolen time. Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." Every delay you've endured, every door that slammed shut, every no that felt like rejection, they were all protecting your appointed time from being wasted on the wrong season. The enemy stole decades from your family line. Depression that wasn't supposed to touch your bloodline, poverty that had no legal right to camp in your DNA, sickness that should never have found a home in your heritage. But Friday is payback day, not just restoration compensation with divine interest. You've been thinking in human years when God has been calculating in eternal moments. What looks like 80 years of age to the world looks like perfect timing to heaven. Sarah was 90 when she birthed nations. Moses was 80 when he split seas. Your wrinkles aren't signs of being too late, they're evidence of being right on time. This Friday, time stops being your enemy and becomes your servant. The clock that's been counting against you starts counting for you. The calendar that's been mocking your dreams starts celebrating your destiny. But here's the question that will determine whether you experience this divine reset or watch it pass you by. Are you ready to stop living by Chronos and start moving by Chyros? Because in less than 72 hours, everything changes. You felt it this morning, didn't you? That strange electricity in the air when you opened your eyes. Something's different. Something's shifting. And if you're honest, really honest, you've been seeing things all week that don't quite add up to coincidence. Heaven hides its messages in plain sight. Friday is a code waiting to be cracked. Listen to me, chosen one. When God is about to move mountains in your life, He doesn't send a telegram. He doesn't post it on Facebook. He speaks in whispers only the spiritually awakened can hear. He leaves breadcrumbs only the chosen can follow. And this week, this very week, those breadcrumbs have been falling like snow around your feet. Have you been seeing the same numbers everywhere? 777 on your grocery receipt. 333 on the clock when you wake up. 111 staring back at you from license plates, street addresses, phone numbers. You thought it was your imagination playing tricks on an aging mind. But what if I told you those numbers aren't random? What if I told you they're heaven's way of saying, pay attention. Something sacred is coming. Don't ignore the whispers. Don't dismiss the patterns. Don't brush away the signs. The prophet Daniel understood this mystery. In Daniel 12:4, God told him to seal the book until the time of the end. But then he said something that should make your spirit tremble. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. We're living in that time, dear one. The seals are breaking. The mysteries are being revealed. And you sitting right there in your living room, you're one of the chosen few being given the decoder ring. But the numbers are just the beginning. How many of you got a phone call this week from someone you hadn't heard from in months, maybe years? They said they were just thinking about you. They couldn't explain why they felt compelled to reach out. But you know, don't you? That wasn't coincidence. That was heaven orchestrating divine appointments, reminding you that you're not forgotten, you're not alone. And Friday is coming with connections that will reshape your destiny. Don't ignore the whispers. Don't dismiss the patterns. Don't brush away the signs. And what about the dreams? Oh, the dreams this week have been different, haven't they? Vivid, prophetic. You've been flying in your sleep, walking through gardens that felt more real than your own backyard, talking to loved ones who've passed on but seemed more alive than ever. You woke up confused, wondering if your medication was playing tricks on you. But Joel 2:28 declares, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions. This isn't dementia, beloved. This is divine download. God is preparing your spirit for Friday by showing you glimpses of what's coming. Those dreams aren't escapes from reality, they're previews of your destiny. Some of you experienced something even stranger this week. You were sitting in your favorite chair, the same chair you've sat in for 20 years, when suddenly, without warning, peace flooded your soul like warm honey. For the first time in months, maybe years, you felt complete, whole. Like every broken piece of your heart was being gently put back together by invisible hands. You looked around, confused. Nothing had changed in your circumstances. The bills were still on the kitchen table. Your arthritis was still aching. Your children were still too busy to call. But something deep inside you whispered, it's going to be okay. Everything is about to change. That wasn't wishful thinking, chosen one. That was a divine download of peace that surpasses all understanding. Philippians 4:7 promises this peace will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. God was installing spiritual armor for Friday's battle. He was preparing your soul for the breakthrough that's about to shatter every limitation you've accepted. Don't ignore the whispers. Don't dismiss the patterns. Don't brush away the signs. Maybe your sign was different. Maybe you found an old photograph that made you remember who you used to be before life wore you down. Maybe a stranger smiled at you in the grocery store, and their eyes held something that felt like recognition. Maybe you heard a song on the radio that stirred something ancient in your chest, something that's been sleeping but is finally waking up. Heaven is speaking, beloved. The question is, are you listening? Comment the strangest sign you've seen this week. It may be heaven's breadcrumb trail leading you home, because what you're about to discover about Friday will make every mysterious moment of this week suddenly, powerfully, make perfect sense. That invisible weight crushing your chest, that exhaustion that no doctor can diagnose, that sense of carrying the world on shoulders that were never meant to bear such burden. It's about to make perfect sense. Because what you've been feeling isn't breakdown, it's breakthrough preparation. Friday is fire, beloved. Fire that doesn't burn you, but burns off what chained you. Listen to me with every fiber of your being. For 70, 80, 90 years, you've been like Moses standing before that burning bush, watching flames that consume nothing but illuminate everything. Exodus 3:2 tells us the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. That's you, chosen one. You've been in the fire your entire life, but you haven't been consumed because the fire wasn't meant to destroy you, it was meant to prepare you. Every sleepless night at 3 a.m. when anxiety gripped your throat like invisible hands, that was the fire of refinement. Every financial struggle that should have broken you but somehow didn't, that was the fire of strengthening. Every betrayal from people you trusted most, that was the fire of purification, burning away everything that wasn't pure gold. But here's what's going to shock you to your core. You weren't just enduring the fire, you were being transformed by it. And this Friday, the transformation completes. You think you're too old for God to use you. Moses was 80 when God called him from that burning bush. 80. The world would have put him in a nursing home, but heaven was just getting started with him. That fire didn't consume Moses, it commissioned him. It didn't destroy his calling, it revealed it. And right now, as these words penetrate your spirit, something ancient is stirring within you. Can you feel it? That flutter in your chest isn't heart trouble, it's heaven trouble. Your spirit is recognizing the sound of its own name being called from the flames. Remember Elijah on Mount Carmel. 1 Kings 18:38 records what happened when he prayed. Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt offering and the wood and the stones and the dust and licked up the water that was in the trench. The fire didn't just fall, it consumed everything that opposed God's plan. Every obstacle, every doubt, every impossibility. That same fire is falling this Friday. Not on an altar made of stone, but on an altar made of flesh, your surrendered heart. But listen carefully, this fire comes with a purpose so specific, so targeted, that hell itself trembles at its approach. The enemy has been whispering lies to you for decades. You're too old. You've missed your chance. Your best days are behind you. Those lies are about to be incinerated in flames so holy that only truth will survive. The fire comes not to destroy, but to refine. The fire comes not to consume, but to commission. Do you remember the day of Pentecost? Acts 2-3 describes it. And there appeared to them tongues as of fire distributing themselves, and they rested on each one of them. Notice it doesn't say the fire burned them, it rested on them. It didn't consume them, it empowered them. 120 ordinary people became extraordinary when heaven's fire touched earth's clay. You've been ordinary for too long, haven't you? Playing it safe, keeping your head down, accepting that your dreams died with your youth. But what if I told you that your dreams weren't buried, they were planted? What if every year you thought was wasted was actually preparation for this moment when fire falls and resurrects everything that appeared dead? This Friday isn't just another day on your calendar. It's the day your internal GPS recalibrates. It's the day your spiritual compass stops spinning wildly and points true north. It's the day you stop feeling lost in your own life and start feeling found in your divine purpose. That depression that's haunted you since your spouse passed, the fire burns it away. That financial fear that keeps you awake counting pennies instead of blessings, the fire melts it down. That sense of irrelevance that makes you feel invisible in a world obsessed with youth, the fire transforms it into the kind of wisdom that stops traffic and changes lives. But here's what's going to happen that you're not prepared for. When the fire falls this Friday, it won't just change you, it will mark you. People will see something different in your eyes. Your voice will carry new authority. Your prayers will move with fresh power. You'll walk into rooms and atmospheres will shift without you saying a word. The same fire that appeared to Moses made his face shine so brightly that people couldn't look at him. The same fire that fell on Elijah's altar made an entire nation fall on their faces and declare, "The Lord, He is God." The same fire that touched the disciples' heads turned them from hiding cowards into world-changing apostles. What will that fire do when it touches you this Friday? It will burn off every chain of limitation. It will incinerate every lie about your age, your worth, your relevance. It will consume every excuse you've made for playing small when God created you to stand tall. It will turn your greatest pain into your most powerful testimony. You want to know why you've survived everything that should have killed you? Because the fire that was in you was greater than the fire that was against you. 1 John 4:4 declares it. Greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. That fire in you has been waiting, banked like coals under ash. But this Friday, heaven is about to breathe on those coals, and what's been smoldering in secret is about to blaze in public. Say it aloud right now. I don't care if people are around. I don't care if they think you've lost your mind. Say it with the authority of someone who knows they're about to be set ablaze with holy purpose. Let the fire fall this Friday. Did you feel that? That wasn't just words leaving your mouth. That was a declaration reaching heaven's throne room. That was your spirit giving permission for the Almighty to do what He's been waiting decades to do in your life. The fire is coming, not to destroy you, but to reveal who you've always been underneath all the hurt, all the disappointment, all the years of feeling forgotten. You're about to remember that you're not just human, you're holy. You're not just aging, you're awakening. You're not just surviving, you're about to start thriving in ways that will make your family wonder what happened to you. But there's something else the fire will reveal this Friday, something so profound it will change how you see every single day you have left on this earth. That invisible weight you've been carrying. It wasn't meant to crush you, it was meant to position you, right here, right now, standing before the most sacred threshold of your entire existence. Friday is not a wall, it's a doorway. You step through it, and you cannot go back. Listen to me, chosen one. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been walking past locked doors. Doors to dreams that seemed too late. Doors to healing that felt impossible. Doors to purpose that others convinced you had expired with your youth. But every single one of those doors was preparing you for this moment. This Friday, you see, the enemy has been playing a cruel game with your mind. He's convinced you that closed doors meant rejection, that delayed answers meant abandonment, that your advancing years meant advancing irrelevance. But what if every locked door in your life was actually God's way of saying, "Not yet, you're not ready for what's behind this one"? But when Friday comes, beloved, something supernatural happens. The same God who told Ezekiel, "I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh." That same God is about to perform heart surgery on your spirit. But here's what's going to shake you to your core. This isn't just about you finally getting what you've prayed for. This is about you becoming who you were always meant to be. The door that's opening Friday isn't just giving you access to blessing, it's giving you access to your true identity. You've been living as a shadow of yourself, haven't you? Going through the motions, surviving instead of thriving, existing instead of experiencing the fullness of God's purpose for your life. But Friday changes everything. Friday is the door, Saturday is the shift, Sunday is the resurrection. Think about Lazarus, 4 days dead. 4 days of his sisters weeping, if only Jesus had come sooner. 4 days of mourners saying, "It's too late now." But when Jesus finally arrived at that tomb, he didn't see death. He saw a doorway to demonstrate divine power. Lazarus, come forth, and death itself had to release what God was calling back to life. Right now, there are things in your life that look dead, dreams that have been buried for decades, hope that's been entombed under disappointment, joy that's been sealed behind the stone of, "What's the point at my age?" But Friday is your come forth moment. Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. Every door that slammed in your face was teaching you the sound of divine timing. Every opportunity that passed you by was God protecting you from settling for less than His best. Every delay that frustrated you was heaven's way of aligning every star, every circumstance, every divine appointment for this exact moment. You weren't being punished by the wait, you were being prepared for the walk. And that walk begins Friday, when you step through a doorway that's been waiting for your arrival since before time began. But I need you to understand something that might terrify you. This door opens only once. Not because God is cruel, but because once you walk through it, you won't be the same person. The version of you that doubts, that hesitates, that shrinks back in fear, that version dies on the threshold. What emerges on the other side is the you God always saw, the you your grandmother prayed over before you were born, the you that's been hidden under years of disappointment, buried under decades of maybe next time, suffocated under the weight of other people's opinions about what someone your age should or shouldn't do. In John 10:9, Jesus declares, "I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out, and find pasture." Not just saved from hell, beloved. Saved from mediocrity, saved from settling, saved from the prison of believing your best days are behind you. This Friday, I want you to do something that might sound strange, but I promise you, it's prophetic. When you wake up that morning, before you do anything else, I want you to walk to the front door of your home. Place your hand on that door frame. Feel the wood, feel the metal, feel the physical reality of what separates inside from outside. Then I want you to speak these words out loud. This is my prophetic doorway. God, as I touch this physical door, I'm preparing to walk through the spiritual one you've ordained for my life. I'm ready. I'm willing. I'm stepping through. Because something happens when faith meets action. Something shifts when the spiritual becomes physical. Something breaks when you stop just believing and start behaving like what you believe is true. But here's the question that will haunt you if you don't answer it now. What if you're standing at the threshold of the greatest chapter of your life, and fear keeps you on the wrong side of the door? You know what breaks my heart? It's when I meet a 70-year-old grandmother who whispers to me, "Pastor, I think I wasted my life. My children don't call. My grandchildren barely know me. What was it all for?" Listen to me, dear one. You didn't waste anything. You've been carrying something far more precious than you realize, something that will outlive your body, something that will echo through generations you'll never meet. You are not just a survivor of your story. You are a legacy carrier. Think about this for a moment. Right now, as you sit there wondering if your life mattered, there's a great-grandchild not yet born who will need the faith you're building today. There's a descendant, 70 years from now, who will face a crisis that only your prayers can prepare them for. You've been thinking your life is winding down, but what if it's actually winding up? What if every year you've lived, every battle you've fought, every tear you've cried, has been depositing something eternal into your family's bloodline. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 13:22 that a good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children. But this isn't talking about money, beloved. This is talking about spiritual DNA. This is talking about the faith deposits you've been making without even knowing it. Your children may not listen to your advice, but they will inherit your faith. Your grandchildren may not know your battles, but they will walk on roads paved by your prayers. You think they're not watching? You think they're not learning? Every time you got back up when life knocked you down, you taught them resilience. Every time you forgave when you had every right to be bitter, you planted seeds of grace. Every time you chose hope over despair, you were writing chapters in their survival manual. But here's what's going to shock you. This coming Friday, something shifts in the spiritual realm over your bloodline. The enemy has been targeting your family for generations, hasn't he? The same struggles, the same addictions, the same financial curses, the same broken relationships, all passed down like some twisted heirloom. But you, sitting right there, feeling forgotten and overlooked, you are the generation breaker. You are the one God has been preparing to say, no more. It stops with me. Do you understand what I'm telling you? You're not at the end of your story. You're at the climax. You're not watching from the sidelines. You're the main character in a generational transformation that heaven has been orchestrating for decades. Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver Israel. 80 years old. Abraham was 75 when God promised him nations would come from his loins. Sarah was 90 when she birthed the impossible. Your age isn't your expiration date, it's your activation code. Think of yourself as a relay runner who's been carrying the baton for miles. You've been running through storms, through valleys, through seasons when you could barely breathe. But right now, you're approaching the final stretch. And what you do with that baton on Friday will determine whether your family runs toward blessing or stays trapped in generational bondage. I'm talking to the man whose father abandoned him, but who stayed faithful to his own children. I'm speaking to the woman whose mother battled depression, but who chose joy even in darkness. You didn't just survive your trauma, you transformed it. You didn't just endure your pain, you converted it into power for the next generation. But the devil knows what's at stake. That's why the attacks on your family have been so vicious lately. That's why relationships are strained, why health issues seem to multiply, why financial pressure keeps mounting. The enemy isn't fighting you for who you are, he's fighting you for who your bloodline is about to become. This Friday carries generational weight. What God releases over your life won't just impact you, it will shift the entire trajectory of your family tree. Your great-great-grandchildren will rise up and call you blessed, not because you were perfect, but because you were faithful. Not because you had it easy, but because you made it through. Every tear you've cried in secret is liquid gold in heaven's treasury. Every prayer you've whispered over your children is ammunition against the enemy's future plans. Every time you chose forgiveness over bitterness, you broke chains that would have bound your descendants. The torch you've been carrying, that flame of faith that's flickered but never died, it's about to become a blazing fire that lights the way for generations. Your grandchildren may not understand it now, but they will feel it. They will walk with a confidence they can't explain, make decisions with wisdom beyond their years, overcome obstacles with strength they didn't know they possessed. Because you, beautiful, battle-scarred, faithful, you planted seeds in the spiritual realm that are about to bloom in their natural world. Type your family name in the comments right now. Declare it boldly. This name will carry blessing. Don't just read this message, participate in it. Your declaration on Friday becomes your family's foundation for forever. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul. This window won't stay open forever. Generational shifts happen in appointed times, in divine moments, in sacred seasons. And this Friday, this specific Friday, heaven has marked as your family's Emancipation Day. The question that will haunt you or heal you is this: will you step into your role as the generational game changer, Or will you let this moment pass while your bloodline continues to repeat the same painful patterns? Because what happens next isn't just about your Friday, it's about their forever. Beloved, chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry these truths with you like precious jewels in your heart. Remember this, the invisible weight you've been carrying isn't punishment, it's preparation. Every sleepless night, every tear cried in silence, every moment you felt forgotten has been God refining you for this Friday. You are not broken, you are being built for something magnificent. Remember this, you are not just surviving your story, you are the legacy carrier who rewrites it. The torch you've carried through decades of darkness is about to become a blazing fire that lights the way for generations. Your family name will carry blessing because you refuse to let it carry shame. And remember this most of all. Friday is not just another day on your calendar. It is your divine appointment with destiny, your generational breakthrough, your moment when heaven declares, enough waiting. It's time. But hear me clearly. Dear one, you are not walking this path alone. Even when the road feels uncertain, even when your strength feels insufficient, the God who called you before time began is still working in your life right now. He's moving mountains you can't see, opening doors you haven't found yet, and orchestrating blessing you can't even imagine. Beyond that, you have a family right here. Look at these comments flowing in thousands of hearts connecting, spirits resonating, souls saying, "Me too." This isn't just a YouTube channel. This is a community of chosen ones who understand your journey because they're walking it too. We see you. We believe in you. We will stand with you in prayer. So let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know Friday carries the weight of your families forever, now that you understand your pain was actually preparation, now that you realize you're not too old but right on time, what will you do with this revelation? Before I release you into your destiny, I want to place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority of someone who has walked with God for 5 decades. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. Lord, you see them, not just their struggles, but their strength, not just their tears, but their triumph, not just their age, but their anointing. Father, I pray over every person hearing these words right now. Touch their bodies with supernatural healing. Touch their hearts with unexplainable peace. Touch their minds with divine clarity. Touch their families with generational blessing. For the grandmother listening in her empty house, fill every room with your presence. For the grandfather wondering if he matters, remind him that his prayers are still echoing in heaven. For every senior feeling forgotten by this world, let them feel remembered by you. God, open the windows of heaven over their lives this Friday. Let breakthrough flow like a river. Let healing cascade like a waterfall. Let blessing overflow like a fountain that never runs dry. Break every chain that has bound their bloodline. Heal every wound that has haunted their family. Restore every relationship that seems impossible. Provide for every need according to your riches in glory. And Father, when this Friday comes, when that divine moment arrives, give them the courage to step into everything you have prepared. No more hiding, no more shrinking, no more believing they're too old or too late or too broken. Let them rise like eagles on wings of faith. Let them roar like lions who remember their royal bloodline. Let them shine like stars in this dark world, carrying the light of your glory into every corner of their influence. Bless their children and their children's children. Let the legacy they leave be written in heaven's permanent ink. And when their earthly journey is complete, let them hear you say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." You carried the torch, you broke the chains, you changed everything. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer with faith, hope, and love. Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell us what God spoke to your heart today. Share the breakthrough you're believing for this Friday. Ask for prayer. This community will surround you with intercession. And if this message touched your soul, please share it with someone who needs to remember they're chosen too. Thank you for spending this sacred time with me. Thank you for opening your heart to receive what heaven wanted to give you today. Your faithfulness to watch until the very end tells me everything I need to know about your heart. You're ready for what God has prepared. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Every week, we're diving deeper into the mysteries of your calling, the power of your purpose, and the reality of your royal identity. You belong here. This is your spiritual family. Until we meet again, walk in the authority of who you are. Friday is coming. Your breakthrough is approaching. And nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop what God has already set in motion. You are chosen. You are loved. You are never, ever alone. God bless you, mighty warrior. Your finest hour begins now.